you're here. Why is it that the reward for being the most reliable person in the room is almost always just more responsibility? There's a specific kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from failure. It comes from being too good at what you do. Every time you solve the problem, handle the pressure, save the situation, you're quietly teaching everyone around you that they don't have to. And at some point, your own capability becomes the thing that's crushing you. That's what I want to sit with today. Whether you're managing a retail floor, navigating a family-run office, or sitting in a corporate building, once you show the world you can handle the pressure, the world decides you should carry more of it. It starts small. A colleague asks for a quick favor. A manager hands you a project because they know you'll just get it done. And you do. You fix the mistake, find the missing piece, calm the situation down. But every time you solve a problem, you're unintentionally teaching everyone around you that they don't have to solve it themselves. And so the trap closes. You've built a reputation for being the person who doesn't drop the ball. And now, the thought of actually dropping it feels like a catastrophe. You've become the problem solver, which sounds like a compliment. But in reality, it means you're the one who absorbs the stress that everyone else is allowed to walk away from. You see them coming toward you with that specific look, the one that says, "I have a mess, and I know you'll clean it up," before they've even opened their mouths. We don't talk about the resentment this creates. We think that if we were good team players, being needed should feel like a privilege. But being needed is exhausting when it only runs one direction. You're providing the stability that allows everyone else to be mediocre. And the price you pay is a low, constant simmer of frustration that you can't quite justify out loud, because you're the one who keeps showing up, and showing up well. The hardest part isn't the work itself. It's the silence around it. When you're the person who always has the answer, people stop asking if you're okay. They assume that because you're capable, you're also invincible. They see the results, but not the coordination behind them. You've performed capability so well that you've accidentally convinced everyone you don't actually feel the weight. You've become a functional part of the environment, like the lighting or the air conditioning, essential, completely ignored until you stop working. This creates a specific kind of loneliness. You're surrounded by people, but you feel like the only one who's actually awake in the room. You're the one who notices the deadline approaching, catches the error in the report, sees the plan falling apart before anyone else does. And because you notice it, you feel responsible for fixing it. You can't just let it go. You can't watch the thing fall apart. So you step in again and again, and each time you do, the expectation that you will step in gets heavier. You watch your colleagues leave at the end of the day with clear heads. You see them shrug off mistakes that would keep you up at night. And for a second, you feel something cold. Not quite envy, not quite anger. Just the quiet realization of what it would feel like to just be average. To be the person who gets to say, "That's not my job," and actually mean it. But you've been the capable one for too long. The identity has set. And now the idea of being anything else feels like failure. There is a specific kind of internal noise that happens when your capacity is full and the demands keep coming anyway. It isn't loud. It's more like a low, vibrating hum that sits behind every meeting, every conversation, every task. It's the sound of your own exhaustion, trying to find a way out while you're still nodding and saying, "Sure, I can look at that." You're holding the professional version of yourself upright, calm, collected, the person they need you to be, while the person underneath is slowly losing it. The crack between those two versions is the thing nobody sees. You find yourself staring at the clock, not because you want to go home, but because you just want to stop being perceived for a few minutes. You want to go somewhere nobody is waiting for a decision. You want to be unuseful for a while. We feel guilt about this. We tell ourselves we should be grateful for the job, that we should just manage our time better, think smarter. But no amount of smart thinking fixes the fact that you're being treated as a resource rather than a person. You're being used for your output, and the person generating that output is being left behind. You're drowning in competence, and the world is standing on the shore, applauding you for your swimming. When you're the problem solver, you're not allowed to be uncertain. Even when you're guessing, even when you're just as lost as everyone else in the room, you feel the pressure to provide a direction, because if you look worried, the panic in the room rises. If you hesitate too long, the whole thing starts to wobble. You've become the emotional anchor for the team, so you learn to hide your doubt. You speak with a confidence you don't feel. You perform certainty. And this performance is one of the most draining parts of the day. It requires constant, high-level management of your own expression and tone. You're monitoring yourself the whole time. Am I sounding too stressed? Am I being too blunt? Did I let that pause go too long? You're trying to keep the atmosphere stable, but the effort of doing so is making you more and more unstable. The irony is that the more you perform certainty, the more people rely on you. It becomes a loop. They see you stay calm in the crisis, so they bring you more crises. They see you handle the heavy workload, so they give you more work. You've trained them to believe your capacity is limitless, and now you're terrified of the moment they find out it isn't. You're sitting at your desk looking at the blinking notification and realizing you've become a character in someone else's story about success, and you're the only one who knows the character is running on empty. Eventually, the day ends. The office empties. The demands stop, at least for a few hours. And this is the moment. The one where you're just sitting there, not quite ready to leave, not quite able to move. The silence of an empty workspace is heavy, but it's the only time the capable self is allowed to step back. You're not a problem solver right now. You're not a pillar. You're just a tired person in a quiet room, feeling the ache of a day that asked for everything you had, and then a little more. In this quiet, the truth starts to surface. You begin to see that the recognition you're working toward might not be the reward you actually want. That being the best is just another way of being the most used. That the Best Employee Award isn't a prize. It's just a way for the system to make sure you keep absorbing the friction so nobody else has to. We don't need to diagnose this or find a fix for it tonight. We don't need a framework for burnout or a list of things to do differently. Sometimes the most honest thing we can do is just acknowledge that the system is built to use us up. That you can be genuinely skilled, genuinely hardworking, and still be exhausted in a way that has nothing to do with your attitude or your effort. You can just sit with that, in the quiet, at the empty desk, before you go home to the next thing. If something in this landed, if you recognize that specific weight of being the person everyone leans on while nobody checks if you're holding, that recognition is real. It doesn't mean you're bitter. It doesn't mean you should have done things differently. It just means You've been carrying something that was never meant to be carried by one person, alone. And you've been doing it quietly, and well, and without much acknowledgement. That's not a small thing, even if it's been treated like one. Here is the question for us. Is the recognition you're working toward a reward you actually want, or is it just a title that gives the world permission to ask even more of you?